This is wild. In a recent radio interview, AK and Billiy Donovan come out and say that they are trying to win every game next season. And they also give out some major updates about the Chicago Bulls and how they might play next season. We'll be talking about what this means for the Chicago Bulls. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so, yes, we're going into an interview that was done on 670 to score yesterday, and it appears that AK, when asked about protecting this top 10 pick, he says, look, we are trying to win every game. And my initial thoughts are, there is no way they do this. And what I mean by that is that if the Chicago Bulls get down to a point in the season and it looks like that they're not going anywhere and they need to protect that pick, I think that they will try to strategically tank, and we're going to go into that. But anyway, I thought that they had also said some great things about the roster, which kind of gives us a little bit more of a vision to perhaps what they are trying to do next season and beyond. And so let's go ahead and break into the first thing that was said here. And so, yes, when asked about this top 10 protected draft pick that would be owed to them by the Spurs, and so, or they owe the Spurs, excuse me. Yes, he was saying that, yes, we're going to try and win every game. And so initially when I thought about this, I think that AK is saying the things that he's supposed to say, because you just can't outright come out and say, hey, we are looking to tank next season, because you are obviously going to probably get a call from the NBA on that. I'm not sure, what it's going to look like as far as what would happen to your team after they initially fine you. In fact, I had to look back and see if there is a team that has been fined, and yes, there has. There's been the Dallas Mavericks in 2023. Ironically, it was after they played the Chicago Bulls, and it looks like they were in a play-in situation. They needed to beat us, and then they needed to, I think, beat OKC or something like that. It was like win two and then get in or something like that. But anyway, they ended up resting players. They rested Kyrie. They played Luka for a quarter. Tim Hardaway Jr., they had him sit as well, Josh Green. And so some key rotational pieces that they went ahead and sat down. The NBA came down and fined them. And so, yes, the Chicago Bulls don't want to start off their season that way. But I do believe that if they are headed to a play-in situation, or, it's looking like, they're not going to go anywhere, they're close to possibly giving up that pick, I can definitely see where the Chicago Bulls can then go ahead and see, younger players start to maybe start over some players that could be questionable on the injury report. Suddenly they're sitting. So I could see that them strategically doing that when it comes down to, perhaps protecting this pick. And so next up, talking about young players playing and then possibly going ahead and protecting this pick, let's go into what Billiy Donovan had to say, because I thought that Billiy Donovan, backed with AK, they had a lot of interesting things to say. All right, and so Billiy Donovan reiterates that he is also trying to win every game. And then when he was talking about Modest Buzelis, he was saying that there is the possibility that he could be going down to the G League to get some additional minutes. That's something that him and AK could be going back and forth about throughout the season. But he really talked about the fact that it's going to be more than just playing time for these players in order for them to develop. And so, yes, I totally understand that from Billiy Donovan, that yes, you're going to need to do some other things other than just simply throwing them into games. He also talked about the fact that they're going to have to earn minutes as well. And I totally understand that. That's part of being a professional. And look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I just think that, yes, you've got to do more than just go out there and scrimmage and practice. You can't just sit there and do dribbling drills and then just do, different shooting drills as well. Like, I think at some point you actually have to play in real NBA games. Like, I get the G League too as well, but at some point you're going to have to throw those players out there because, in my opinion, for example, how do you know if Adama Sanogo can actually play in the NBA unless you throw him out there against an Embiid, against an Evan Mobley. Like, you have to see what these players are going to do in those moments. And that is one of the things he talked about with players getting hit with adverse situations. What's going to happen when they get exposed out there? Are they going to be able to recover? Like, the only way that you're going to see that is you have to play those players. And so, the G League is one thing. Like, you can go in the G League, you could average 35 points a game, but then when you get to the NBA, it's a totally different situation. It's a totally different game speed, a different physicality. And I think the only way you learn that is on the job. And so even though Billiy Donovan's saying that, at some point, look, Modest Buzelis is going to have to play along with Ayo, Kobe White, Josh Giddey. Like, these players are going to have to play in those major situations. Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry. The only way they're going to find out, and I'm talking about the Chicago Bulls, the only way they're finding out if these players are going to be a part of their future or not is you have to play them. You're not going to get that out of practice, and you're not going to get that out of just G League experiences. Like, there's going to have to be some actual game experience when it comes down to it. With Lonzo Ball and Zach LaVine, the two veterans on the roster, he gave some pretty good updates about them. With Lonzo, he pretty much reiterates that he is trending upwards and it's looking pretty good, but they have no idea how many minutes he's going to play or his role on the team. And it looks like they have met with him, and it looks like he wants to play more than just this year, which is understandable. I've said that before. And it's looking like, to me, no matter what happens, Lonzo may not be with the Chicago Bulls after this season, but I think he can be a player. If he can just rehab himself, he can definitely help a roster out. And I would wonder, if he does look pretty good, if the Chicago Bulls would be willing to trade him, if teams are going to be interested in him. He said that they want to make sure that they manage him correctly so that he can continue his career, but they really are questionable on how much he can take, what his minutes are going to look like, the recovery standpoint. Nobody really knows. And so next with Zach LaVine, he's saying that with Zach LaVine, he is very encouraged with Zach LaVine. He feels like Zach LaVine believes in this situation and them wanting to play faster, which I found that pretty interesting. So it looks like he's buying into it. And then also, too, he has said that, look, he has had very good conversations with Zach LaVine, not just now, but in the past. And so that really makes you kind of wonder about this whole notion of there being some friction there. Obviously, I know that they're talking on the radio station and they're not going to air out anything bad. But, from what I'm hearing, they have also echoed that Zach LaVine has been a pretty big part of just being professional about everything, right? Because they talked about, the whole trade situation, and if Zach LaVine has went out there to try to, state again that he wants to be traded, all they've said is that he's been professional, and they feel like they're really excited about him coming into camp because unlike the last couple seasons, they feel like he's coming in healthy. And so they say he looks good. They're saying that he's looking like he's going to be a big piece in what they're going to do. So I'm curious to see how they move on with Zach LaVine, especially if the Chicago Bulls start to lose games. Does that tune change? And lastly, with Patrick Williams and that update, I found that was interesting because Patrick Williams, they didn't say very much about Patrick Williams. In fact, they don't say, hey, he is coming back from this setback with his foot. They didn't say, hey, he's been playing fives. The only thing that they said was they're looking to ramp him up for training camp. And they also talked about the fact that, they feel like now in year 5, they're still very patient with him and the experience that he's had in the NBA. And they just really kind of reiterate that they're just going to ramp up. And it seems like they're still all in on Patrick Williams, which I get it. They just signed him, but not a whole bunch said about him in, based off this report that last came out that said that he had a setback, which I found very interesting since he is going to be a major part of the Chicago Bulls' future. And so with that being said, that just kind of leads me down to, I think, one last piece. And I found this in an article, but it makes a good point. All right. And it talks about AK and how he should be building for the future. And it looks like that the Chicago Bulls maybe are not going to go into this youth movement full steam ahead. And it looks like that they're focused a little bit more in the short term. And I think that one could probably take that out of the comments that they have made about wanting to win every game. But I would say, let's just caution that, because I think that, again, AK is saying the right things. And at some point, he's going to have to play younger players. There's no way around it. Billiy Donovan, AK, they're going to have to play these younger players, and they're going to have to continue to build off that. And the only way to find out what you have is to go ahead and play them. And so they may try to be competitive, but I think that once it comes down to it, if they're going to lose a pick, then they're going to try to go ahead and, throw those young players out there, unlike what they're saying in this interview here. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think that AK is going to go all in on winning? Right now, his tenure with the Chicago Bulls, he is 156 and versus 162. So 156 wins, 162 losses, one playoff appearance. Do you feel like he is going to win a ton of games with this roster? Or do you feel like AK is just saying the right things, and at some point the Chicago Bulls will do the right thing and probably play these younger players a little bit more and try to protect that pick? Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And before we jump out of here, just want to thank you guys out there for watching, liking, subscribing, sharing. It means a lot to us as we try to reach 5,000 subscribers before the NBA season starts. And just make sure that you go ahead and continue to slam dunk on that subscribe button for me. And look, even though we still really don't know what the Chicago Bulls are going to do next season, even though they're saying these things, I'm not sure I really believe them. But anyhow, I'm just saying, go Bulls, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.